get some of the house cleaning stuff done first. I believe that everybody received the minutes for February 25th and 27th. I would entertain a motion on those minutes. Representative Wilborn moves the adoption and Representative Hellwig seconds. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Okay, seeing no discussion, you've heard the motion. All those in favor of approving the minutes for February 25th and 27th signify by saying aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The minutes are approved. Okay, what I would like to do, committee, is up front, while we're still waiting for people to flow in, do the hearing on Senate Bill 105. This will sound really, really familiar because it's very similar to 2057, which I think moved out of here twice, but at least once. So I'm going to open the hearing on Senate Bill 105. Right now, I have no proponents listed to testify. Is there anybody wishing to speak as a proponent on Senate Bill 105? Okay, seeing none, I'll move on to neutral testimony. And the first conferee I have listed is Mr. Clay Barker on WebEx. Sir, are you there?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me?
I can. Please proceed.
And apologies to the committee that I'm not there in person. The Secretary of State is overall neutral on this bill because they believe it's up to the legislature to determine how to replace the U.S. senators, treasurers, and insurance commissioners. So we have no comment on the process to pick the temporary U.S. senator. And I just have 3 points to bring up on the bill, and if there are any questions, Mr. Chair. First, at our request, the provision about the May 1 cutoff for the special election to fill the U.S. senator. So the process would go through, the governor appoints a temporary, and then we have an election to complete the term. We asked for that to be put in there because the original language, which was over a century old, just simply said would be replaced at the next general election. And if a senator were to die or resign in August, September, October before a general election, we'd have a hell of a time getting that position on the ballot. So May 1 was the cutoff date. Vacancy before that, it's the next general election. After May 1, we wait to the second general election. And that's the same date that's used for county four-year positions and state Senate positions if there's a vacancy. Second, just to make sure the committee's aware, just like the House bill, the treasurer and insurance commissioner have no special election. So whoever is picked by the governor ends up filling the complete term, even if it's 3.9 years. And last, a provision was added that the Secretary of State will certify the correct person to be the temporary U.S. senator or treasurer insurance commissioner. We have no concerns with that. We didn't ask for that, but that's easy to do, no problems. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'll stand for any questions.
Right. Are there any questions for Mr. Barker? Okay. It looks like you're getting off the hook easily. Okay. Thank you very much for your testimony, Mr. Barker. I have no one else listed as neutral on this bill. Is there anybody wishing to speak as neutral on Senate Bill 105? Okay, seeing none, I'll move on to opponent testimony. And the only person I have listed has written only testimony, Brittany Stolter. Is there anybody wishing to Stotler? Sorry. Is there anybody wishing to speak as an opponent on Senate Bill 105? Okay, seeing none, we are going to. I'm going to close the hearing on Senate Bill 105. Committee, I'd like to do some work on a couple bills that we heard previously. And just as a heads up, I would like to work Senate Bill 105 today. I'll ask for a vote, or I'll ask for the approval of the committee to suspend the rules on that. But first, I want to work Senate Bill 5 and 6. So we'll start with Senate Bill 5. Mr. Advisor, could you remind us what that is?
Mr. Chairman, members of the...
Sorry. I got ahead of myself. The chair would entertain a motion on Senate Bill 5 so we can open discussion. Mr. Vice Chairman.
I would make a motion that we entertain Senate Bill 5 for approval.
Okay, and a second from the ranking minority member. Now, Mr. Advisor, do you mind reminding us what this bill is about?
Okay. This is a bill dealing with money from the federal government. It provides that no governmental agency, which includes the state and local governments, shall knowingly accept or expend any money directly or indirectly from the federal government except as provided by law or through acts of appropriation. And it's got some exceptions, but that's basically it.
Are there any questions for the revisor? Okay, seeing none, committee, I have an amendment. If the revisors could, I've got one. If the revisor can hand it out. This is a very complicated amendment. I'm certain it took 10 to 15 man-hours to draft. It changes the enacting date for this bill from publication in the statute book to publication in the Kansas Register. And I make the motion to amend. Is there a second? A second from Representative Penn. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Representative McDonald, welcome to the committee. Glad to see you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. This is a trend I've seen in a lot of my committees where we're just tweaking the last little sentence there. I'm relatively new. Can someone enlighten me on why we keep doing this? Thank you.
We may want to talk to the Senate Fed and State Committee about this bill or other bills, and so this gives us the opportunity to convene a conference committee with the Fed and State and discuss this bill in conference.
I'm not sure I approve, but no one asked me, so thank you for your answer.
I apologize if it was uncommonly frank, but that's what it's for. Is there any other discussion on the amendment? Representative Penn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I would add to that that's not a partisan maneuver or anything like that. As a matter of fact, what I've seen in times past is that there are some times that members from both sides of the aisle have some last-minute, late-breaking types of language that they'd like to add. But if we automatically send it through the process to the governor's office, even our friends on the other side of the aisle don't have that opportunity to, make the bill better. So it's an opportunity for us to go to conference committee with the counterparts and, continue to massage it in our legislative procedure and process before it goes to the executive. So I approve of this particular amendment. I'll be in support. Thank you.
And if you'll remember, I know they've got a lot of new folks on the committee that weren't here 2 years ago, but Senate Bill 208, probably the most sweeping change to Campaign Finance Act and ethics in a generation. When it started, we did not have bipartisan support, and because we conferenced on it, we ended up with a bill that even the governor loved and supported, and was passed bipartisan through both houses. So that's a great point, Representative Penn. Is there any other discussion? Okay, seeing no further discussion on the amendment, I will close on my amendment. You've heard the motion. All those in favor of amending signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The bill is amended. We're back on the bill. Is there any discussion on the underlying bill, Senate Bill 5? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Vice Chairman, would you renew your motion as amended?
I move that we pass out Senate Bill number 5 as amended favorably for passage.
Okay, and I believe the second was from the ranking minority member. Do you renew your second? Okay. All right. You've heard the motion. All those in favor of passing Senate Bill 5, or of reporting Senate Bill 5 favorably for action, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Okay, the ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The bill is passed. All right, the other bill that I'd like to work here is Senate Bill 6. The chair would entertain a motion on Senate Bill 6. Mr. Vice Chairman.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion we pass out Senate Bill 6 favorably for passage.
Okay, you've got a motion from the Vice Chairman. Do I have a second? A second from Representative Penn. All right. Is there any discussion on the bill? I've got another amendment. This one will look strikingly familiar. It's the same amendment we just did on Senate Bill 5. Do I have a second on my amendment? A second from Representative Hellwig. All right, is there any discussion on the amendment? Make sure everybody has the amendment before I ask for discussion. Okay, everybody's got the, oh, one more. Okay, now everybody's got the amendment. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Representative Penn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that this is an extraordinary amendment. I love it because it's very clear, very concise, and I would definitely be in support of it. Thank you.
Okay, with that ringing endorsement, is there any other discussion on the amendment? Okay, seeing none, I will close on my amendment. All those, you've heard the motion to amend. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Okay, the ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The bill is amended. We're back on the base bill. Is there any discussion on the bill? Representative McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I apologize for not knowing the answer to this, but I didn't get a chance to watch the hearing. Does this impact party presidential primaries?
It does not. Parties are free to conduct their primaries in any way they wish. In fact, the Kansas Democrat Party a little while ago did a ranked choice vote, I think in 2016 election, or no, 2020 election. So I was not there. I was not there, but I read about it. I read about it with great interest. Yeah.
You know,
So yeah, so it will not cover presidential preference primaries. Representative McDonald.
thank you so much. It was wildly popular when we did that, and I felt like we got a really good turnout. So I will not be able to support this bill, but I do appreciate that that segment is carved out. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. Is there any other discussion on Senate Bill 6? Okay, seeing no discussion, Mr. Vice Chairman, will you renew your amendment as amended?
Yes, I move that we pass out Senate Bill number 6 as amended favorably for passage.
Representative Pym, will you renew your second? Okay. Committee, you've heard the motion to report Senate Bill 6 favorably. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? No. Okay, the ayes appear to have it. Representative McDonald would like her vote, her no vote recorded. Okay, as would Representative Miller and the ranking minority member. Just adding a challenge for the committee assistant. Thank you. She thanks you. All right, committee, with the indulgence of the committee, I would like to work Senate Bill 105 because if we do, this is our last committee meeting of the 2025 session. I would make the motion that we suspend the rules in order to work Senate Bill 105. Is there a second? A second from Representative Berquist. Is there any discussion? The ranking minority member.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have an amendment.
We're voting to suspend the rules first,
Oh,
if that's
dang
okay.
it. Okay,
Is there any discussion on the motion to suspend the rules?
no discussion.
Okay, seeing no discussion, you've heard the motion. All those in favor of suspending the rules to work Senate Bill 105 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Okay, the ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Is there a motion on Senate Bill 105? Okay, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Yes, I move that we pass Senate Bill 105 favorably for passage.
Okay, I've got a motion from the Vice Chairman and a second from Representative Penn. Is there any discussion on the bill? The ranking minority member seems to have something he wants to say.
Yeah, as a precursor, I didn't inform everybody that I have an amendment. Thank you.
Mr. Ranking Minority Member, this appears to be a slight change to the underlying bill. Could you please explain what this amendment does?
Yes, Mr. Chair. This amendment, so the basis of this bill was to make sure that the governor appointed a member of the party that the senator, treasurer, insurance commissioner was leaving from. And so this amendment just states, removes the committees, removes all the process, and just states the governor will appoint someone from the party that is being absent from. It still maintains the guidelines and selection. It just simplifies, cleans it up, and removes the whole 30 to 76 days and appointments. It's just the governor will appoint somebody from the party that the previous holder had. And this is supported by the governor, and if it's on there, the governor is in favor of it.
All right, so we have a motion to amend. Is there a second on the motion? Second from Representative McDonald. Is there any discussion on this amendment? Representative Berquist.
I'll simply say that there's what's in a name. If you name something a one-party name or name something another party name, it doesn't mean always what it says. That's why I don't support this amendment. Thank you.
Is there any other comment or discussion? The Vice Chairman.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Early morning.
I mean, again, I appreciate what the ranking minority member is doing here. I mean, it does solve, in a certain level, one of the problems, which of course is governors appointing people from the other party. But I think having the, I mean, again, I can name off people here who are here in the legislature who are Republicans, who are very much, I mean, the Republican Party, in our case, and of course Democrats the same way, there can be a broad variation as to where people come from. And if the governor has the ability to pick just any Republican, as it would be in this particular situation with this particular governor, you could still, there's still plenty of room for mischief. And I think having a little bit of scrutiny on it, which this committee that in Senate Bill 105 has, I think is well needed and is definitely the better preferable vehicle going forward. So I would oppose this amendment.
Is there any other discussion on the amendment? So committee, I'd say the kind of originator of the underlying bill that we heard is 2057 said in testimony and actually sat in the committee and helped us work it. One of his intents was to restore the voice of the people to the selection of a replacement through their elected representatives. And while I appreciate the ranking minority member's attempt to reach a bipartisan compromise on this, I think that this is so dramatically alters the underlying intent of the bill, I would ask the committee to oppose it. Is there any further discussion on the amendment? Okay, seeing no discussion, Mr. Ranking Minority Member, you may close on your amendment.
Thank you very much. And just colleagues, I'm really confused. I am. The individual that wrote and was proponent stated that and gave historical testimony that the people have voted by electing the senator, the insurance commissioner, the treasurer, and that replacement should be a member of the party. I'm keeping in the 6 years. I'm keeping in everything that qualifies that. I'm just saving taxpayers' dollars and not having them form a committee, which, if this goes through, I will have discussions about, and to just meet the initial primary need that was described as for the bill. So if you don't vote for this and you say it's unfriendly, then you're stating we want to spend a lot of money to bring it in a committee, slow down the process for something that has not been proven as a problem. So this is a fair compromise. It directly talks to the purpose of why we have the bill. And let's also keep in mind that this is a law. So we may have difference of opinion on the current governor, but this also ties the hands of the future governor. That could be a Republican, could be an independent. So this has been in place for decades. And so to form a committee to just solve one question, I would highly encourage you to support the amendment. And let's make it easy and clean and, as everybody wants, efficient. So I close and move my amendment.
Committee, you've heard the motion to amend from the ranking minority member. All those in favor of amending signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no? No. Okay, the noes appear to have it. Okay, the ayes do have it, or I'm sorry, the nays do have it. The nays do have it. And Representative Simmons, Representative McDonald, Representative Miller, and the ranking minority member would like to have their votes recorded. All right, committee, we're back on the original bill. Is there any further discussion? The ranking, okay, ranking minority member.
Thank you. So in comparison to the House bill, this is a cleaner bill. And I commend the work that was done to clean it up. It's still a bad bill. Just go to the committee assignments. Do you not even want the minority party to be there? You get 10 majority members and only 2 minority members. So let's say that the U.S. Senate, I saw that head shaking, the U.S. Senator is a Democrat. Now the argument that you just gave upon, well, what's in a name, the majority party gets to select the Democrat. So there's an obvious contradiction. And so I would encourage us to send this back to wherever it came from and have them revisit the committee assignments. I don't have an amendment, but if this passes, I will have plenty of amendments on the floor to clean this up. This is absolutely not civil, not fair for the Kansans who elect a minority member. And it's 10 to 2. I mean, it's like, why? How biased can we be in this selection process?
Representative Simmons, I'm going to ask you to hold for just a minute because I have an amendment too. Committee, I generally frown on conceptual amendments, but we're in a situation where we need to move this bill out because we plan to have it on general orders next week. My amendment will. In the underlying bill 105, as with the underlying bill 2057 before we amended, the amount of time that someone must have been in the same party as the person being replaced was 6 years. My amendment would change that period to 2 even-year elections, which is how we also amended 2057. So we're basically taking that language from 2057 and putting it into Senate Bill 105. I make a motion to amend. Is there a second on my amendment? The Vice Chairman seconds. Is there any discussion on my amendment? Representative Penn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to clarify, for my understanding, the way that it's currently written, it would take 6 years for someone to be in the party, be known by the party structure, if you will. If it were our friends from across the aisle, their precinct chairs and everyone could validate and vouch for them. They're known to work in the fields, if you will. But then what your amendment would do is say 2 even-year elections, i.e. when we are running state house elections, if you will, so a total of 4 years. And do you think that's sufficient time for people to get that connective tissue into the party to be validated, verified?
I think it does. You know, it could be as short as 4 years, depending on where it falls. But there are a lot of reasons that a person might, you know, not have. Yeah. So I think that it's sufficient time. I think I'll just stop there. Ranking minority member.
So this one is also going back to something that I had a concern with the House bill, because the wording of it stated that they had for 2 even years for 2 general elections. So that is, 2022, 2024. So 2022, 2023, 2024. So that is 3 years based upon how the writing of that bill is. So we've gone from 6 years to 3 years. So that's the equivalent of, you know, anybody that has been a college student and has been able to vote, and they are now, 18, 19, 20 years old, then they've been a member there. We're talking about the U.S. Senate. We're talking about the insurance commissioner. We're talking about the treasurer. There needs to be, and if the base argument is they need to be a member of the party, I would encourage you to vote this amendment down, because it is, or I don't even know where we're at with that conceptual amendment, but stick with the current 6 years. You don't cheapen the qualifications of the position.
in response to ranking minority member, while I absolutely believe in the American dream and that anybody can achieve anything, the odds that a college student would be selected by a panel of legislators and then approved by the entire legislature to become a U.S. senator without ever holding elective office or having held a position as a public servant is pretty remote. So I think I'm willing to take that chance. Is there any other discussion on the amendment? Mr. Vice Chairman.
Yes, the import of having any sort of requirement is just to make it where in some other states, they just have to be from the same political party. And of course, a person can change their voter registration a month before, as it's clear that something's going to happen. And so by having a prior, in this case, 2 elections, it's just basically to keep it from being jury-rigged by somebody just switching parties at the last minute so they can be appointed by the governor for a seat. So I fully support this amendment.
All right. Is there any other discussion? Representative James.
Yeah, just clarification. So going from the 6 down to the 3, I mean, what's, I guess I missed it. What's the purpose of it instead of just?
So it could potentially be as low as 3, but the idea is that somebody who has, was in the party before this vacancy opened and actually voted as a member of that party in 2 elections, the contention is that that's sufficient evidence that that person is a member of that party and didn't just in the name of hijinks change their party right before the vacancy or right after the vacancy so that they could be appointed. It's just opening up the maximum possible field of candidates. Representative Simmons on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, to your point, I mean, I'm reminded of a representative that was just elected from the city of Manhattan who's only 23 years old, and as such has not been a member of her party for 6 years, but has been an active voter, and I suspect many people would be quite excited for her consideration of statewide office. Additionally, I have to think about re-election. So the governor appoints somebody that the public feels has misled them about their party affiliation, registration. That's the point of an election, is so that voters could come back in however many years and say, that was a scam, we got scammed, and vote them out. I don't think that the legislature necessarily needs to, I don't want to use the word babysit, but I feel like oftentimes we don't trust voters. And I think something like this, voters would understand.
And I would just point out, a 23-year-old can't be a U.S. senator. I believe the minimum age is 30. But yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't think there's an age limit. Is there any more discussion? Representative McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To your point earlier about how we need to tweak a little something so they're different, so they can go to conference committee and be approved, this is a trash bill to me. So I cannot support this amendment because it would change it enough that we couldn't go to conference committee and make it better. So I'm opposed. Thank you.
Speaking of uncommonly frank, I wish you'd not beat around the bush and just tell us what you think about the bill. All right, is there any other discussion on the amendment, Mr. Ranking Minority Member?
Thank you. And if we look up how old you have to be, that's great. I want to go on the record that 25 to be the governor, thank you, is the age there. So there will probably be some 18, 20-year-olds that would do a fantastic job as a U.S. senator. So I just want to go on the record that, the best qualified should be there. But I'm not understanding how they're going to game the system unless you already know that the U.S. senator is going to step down within the 6 years. I mean, so I don't understand how you're gaming the system. Look, you need to be vetted and you have to have qualifications to serve in those high roles. That's all. So I would recommend to keep with the 6 if you're going to continue.
All right, is there any further discussion on the amendment? Okay, seeing no discussion, I will close on my amendment. You've heard the motion. All those in favor of amending signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. All right, we're back on the base bill. Mr. Ranking Minority Member for discussion on the bill.
Thank you. Since we went down that road, I have a conceptual amendment. Going back to the committee size, I would recommend that we increase the committee size to 16. 2 of those representatives will come from the governor's office recommendation, since they're giving up powers, and the other 2 would come from one from the House, Senate, and one from the Senate and one from the House, bringing it to 10 to 16. We're at least getting closer to an even reflecting ratio of the state.
Revisers, did you get that in case you should have to draft it? Okay. I've got a conceptual amendment, which again I frown on, but turnabout's fair play, so I got one, you got one. Is there a second on the conceptual amendment? Okay, there's a second from Representative McDonald. Sorry, her hand was up a fraction of a second before yours. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Representative Penn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would not be in favor of this particular amendment because it goes and flies in the face and contradicts exactly what the ranking minority member just said about expanding the sizing of government and the cost to the taxpayers by going from 10 to 16. Thank you.
Okay, we'll have decorum in the chamber here. So, Mr. Vice Chairman, and then Representative Simmons.
Yes. Again, I appreciate, I think we have a very good ranking minority member here in House elections. That being, that being said, you need to remember this committee doesn't pick, they pick 3 persons as candidates, and then that's voted on by the entire House or Senate, well, both, I guess, eventually, you know, before it goes to, and excuse me for being a little, do they pick it? They literally would pick, or then it goes to the governor? The House and Senate meeting pick the final person. The committee just picks the 3 choices.
So this bill differs from House Bill 2057 in that in 2057 the committee picked 5 and the House and Senate whittled it down to 3. In this bill, Senate Bill 105, the committee picks 3, and the House and Senate must ratify those 3 or send it back to committee for a new 3.
And then the 3 go to the governor, and the governor picks from one of those 3.
That's correct. And the testimony we heard in committee was that if we don't offer at least 3 choices, we're not really offering a choice, and then we're in danger of violating Constitution on how senators are replaced.
And so I would grant in a conceptual method, you know, maybe they're just like maybe the original committee, but again, the original committee is only selecting the 3 candidates. It's always up to the House and Senate to ratify that, which of course is fully representative of the state makeup politically as a whole.
Okay. Representative Simmons, did you have comment on the amendment? Okay. Is there any other discussion on the amendment? Okay, committee, I think that a lot of thought has gone into both this bill and 2057. Right now, it seems that consensus in both bodies is coalescing around Senate Bill 105, and I think that changing the composition of the selection committee begins to undermine that growing consensus. So I would ask that we oppose this amendment. With that having been said, Mr. Ranking Minority Member, do you wish to close on your conceptual amendment?
Look, all right. First, in response, I did give you a warning. If you didn't approve my amendment, I would come back on the House committee, and I'm just following the lead of the body, trying to be a team player here. So if we're going to be inefficient, let's just keep adding so it's fair. Folks, it's 10-2. Yeah, they make recommendations here, but minority voice does not have representation on the committee. And that's the fact. There's 10-2. I'm trying to find a bipartisan way to make it fair. You're taking decision rights away from the governor that she or he have had for decades to form this committee that's going to slow the process down. You can have a U.S. senator like that if they followed, but we voted against that amendment. And so now, if we're going to go this, I would recommend, let's make it fair. You still have the majority decision rights on the committee. 10 to 6. You know, if we're going to be inefficient, let's be efficient with representation. So,
You close on your amendment.
what time is it? Yeah, I close. Thank you.
All right, you've heard the motion to amend from the ranking minority member. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no? No. Okay, the noes appear to have it. The noes do have it. We are back on the base bill as amended. Representative Simmons.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. While we were sitting here discussing party representation, I looked up the registered voters in the state of Kansas, and of course, our job here is to represent them. My question on the bill is, why are we not modeling the breakdown of this committee off of voter registration? You know, oftentimes we go by House representation, such as 2/3 and 1/3 on a committee. But for this committee in particular, I mean, 45% of Kansans are registered Republicans, 28% unaffiliated, and 25% Democratic. I feel we could strike a really efficient compromise by just reflecting the Kansas registration. And for the unaffiliated, I think there's room to discuss what that looks like. And you have nearly 24,000 libertarians in the state of Kansas who are activated, and they get candidates on the ballot, and whether they're successful or not, I mean, none of us here are libertarians, the point's made. But I would really encourage us to consider modeling this committee, if we're going to move forward with that, off of the voter registration in the state of Kansas. I think that's how we achieve fairness, and I think it also leaves room to be revised 10 years down the line to realign perhaps those committee members if the registration breakdown were to change.
Okay, is there any other discussion on the base bill, Mr. Vice Chairman?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would point out the fact, and this is historically true in the state of Kansas, that the same party does not necessarily hold both the House and the Senate. And so this does not, this is strictly, you know, the president of the Senate, you know, the minority member of the Senate, so it does not necessarily mean that it's all from one party controls both chambers. Further, again, I would say that, you know, I mean, I do like this bill. I think it's better than the original House bill that was passed. I think it has a lot to say for it, and I'm really glad we have a chance to work at this on our last day of committee meetings.
If we finish today, it's our last day. Okay, is there any other discussion on the base bill? Representative Miller and then Representative McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be brief. I did just want to point out that just moments ago, in opposition to an amendment, a potential amendment for this bill, it was stated that party name can mean a lot of things, and that it can mean different things to different people, and it can also mean different things to the opposition party. It was also stated that this bill is designed to prevent mischief. However, with the makeup of 10 to 2, it seems to just prevent one side from doing mischief. And it's not implying that the other side would do mischief, but it doesn't prevent that majority party from doing mischief, even if there is different makeups from one party to the other, or one house to the other. It doesn't do what I was told that it's going to do, which is prevent mischief and clear up the confusion about what party could mean. So I'm going to be opposed to this bill.
Representative McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is my first time on elections, and it's been fun. I would be remiss if I didn't read aloud the statement I prepared when I read this bill. What I'm hearing from my constituents is a large measure of distrust and disgust with politicians. Voters recognize these short-sighted, blatant power grabs. It's bills like this that cause voters to feel anger towards elected officials and apathy towards civic engagement. Kansans deserve better than lopsided government with leaders who are drunk on power. I predict there will be a reckoning at the ballot box. I would urge my Republican colleagues to take a step back to evaluate their complicity in contributing to political extremism in this country. Thank you for hearing me out.
I would ask that members not impugn motives, and I believe that calling us drunk on power might travel dangerously close to impugning the motives of the members of the committee. Is there any other discussion on the bill, Mr. Vice Chairman?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would point out to the committee that this bill does not expire.
Yeah, we're going to have decorum in the committee room, so please, everybody, wait until you're recognized before you speak in the committee on both sides of the aisle. Representative, was that your point of order? Okay, thank you. I've dealt with the issue. Mr. Vice Chairman, please continue.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would bring it to everyone's attention.
Okay, I would ask that everybody hold their sidebars and pay attention to the person who has been recognized by the chair to speak. Mr. Vice Chairman, you have the floor. Please speak.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. The point of the bill is not directly at the current political environment. This would go forward whoever is governor in the next election. This has ramifications for whoever is majority party in the next 10 years. I mean, this is a proper reform that gives us a better system than what we currently have, and I think people read way too much into it if they strictly point at the current situation as to who is the governor and who controls the House and Senate. Thank you.
Okay, is there any further discussion on the underlying bill, Mr. Ranking Minority Member?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I do appreciate the dialogue on this, and I knew this was coming because we had our House bill and the Senate bill, so I appreciate it, and it's obviously a sensitive and important thing to get right. I am curious, Jillian, if I may ask, do you recall how many times the current minority party had control of a House or Senate in the history of Kansas? My recollection in the House, it's 3 to 4 times since the 1970s. But so to make the argument that, well, one day the minority can be in the House, could be in control of the House is, well, I would have better chances with the 10-2 committee on that. The point of this is, I agree, got to get it right. But if I wonder if the minority party has control of the House, and seats were reversed, and this committee alignment came up, how would we, as a body, feel about that? I would challenge, and that's rhetorical, I would challenge that you would see it through our view, that it should reflect Kansas voters, and there should be more individuals. We got twice since 1972, so.
You stole research glory.
Right.
They're about to have their moment right before the end of the committee for the session.
So,
you robbed her of her moment of glory. I apologize. Please continue, Mr.
That's all right. My point is reflect, if we remove parties, remove ideology, all of that, and individuals have decision rights. That decision rights of that committee should reflect those that we represent. And that's what I am trying to address. That's why I'll be opposed to this. There's no need for it. No one has ever stated a true justification of why we have to. It is just a philosophical view of what should be done. So it makes me question, what am I missing? And so there hasn't been enough answers to questions. There's no need for it. It's an unfair alignment of committees. And if the tables were reversed on that third time that we have control since 1972, I would think you would see our point. So with that, I will stop.
Representative Penn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A lot has been made in this committee meeting today about numbers and everything. I just refer everybody to verses 10-2, if that's the math that you want to go with. The math that really doesn't math is 1-0. And if you say, what are you missing? The name is Jake LaTurner. He was the state treasurer, duly elected by the people of a particular party, got pushed up to U.S. Congress. And instead of that 1-0 being the governor, respecting the will of the people, respecting the consent of the governed, completely violated that by putting in someone of her choosing and her picking that did not reflect the will as expressed at the ballot box by the people. This would help rectify that while allowing the consent of the governed. I will be in favor of this bill as amended. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, is there any other discussion on the underlying bill? Okay, seeing no discussion, Mr. Vice Chairman, would you like to renew your motion as amended?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would move that the committee reports out Senate Bill 105 as amended favorably for passage.
Right, I think it was Representative Penn who seconded it, and he renews his second. Committee, you've heard the motion to pass Senate Bill 105 as amended, or report Senate Bill 105 as amended favorably for passage. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no.
No.
The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Representative McDonald would like her no vote recorded, as would Representative Simmons, the ranking minority member, and Representative Miller. Is there anything for the good of the order before we close? Representative Berquist.
I don't think I need to remind anybody, and I won't remind anybody, but I'll tell you what I think. The whole idea of having civil government is to make things balanced for every year, for every situation, decade by decade, unless things dramatically change in the society. And we pass laws like this for every season, for every up and down of the situation of our state. And I think it's a great privilege when we can actually refine something that can be used in any political control situation, in any candidate situation, in any war or famine or depression. Any time of our society should be able to be handled in a balanced way throughout, so that laws like this, if it's good, will be able to help us through and have a few things we can count on. And I'm glad to be part of this committee and other ones that are in this body, because we take care of the state. And in the end, I think it's all good. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Representative Berquist. And committee, I would like to thank all of you for your hard work this year, and thank you for pinch hitting, but I'd thank Representative Meyer as well. We've been an incredibly productive committee this year, indicated by several times having whole election days or weeks before turnaround, where ours were the bills that were on the floor. And that really is a testament to all of your hard work, but I'd especially like to recognize the vice chairman who has to write all of those bill briefs, and the ranking minority member that has to be ready to stand before the state of Kansas and speak to every one of the bills that comes to the floor. Thank you for your hard work. I would also like to thank our great revisers, our great research folks, our great IT representative, and especially my favorite committee assistant in the House or the Senate in the legislature. So thank you very much. Is there anything else for the good of the order before we adjourn for the last time in the 2025 session? Okay. All right. Yeah. See y'all in conference committee. We are adjourned.